Slaanesh, also known as She Who Thirsts and the Doom of the Aeldari, is the youngest of the major Chaos gods, personifying the traits of hedonism, pleasure, excess, and pain. It was these very self-indulgent qualities, orchestrated by the numerous pleasure cults of the ancient Eldari Empire, which would lead to her creation. Following the awakening of this new and powerful deity, whose birth scream marked the fall of the Eldari race, Slaanesh would begin systematically consuming each god of the Eldari pantheon one by one. To the Eldari, the downfall of their race caused the death of their gods, for Slaanesh was said to have destroyed them and absorbed their power. Indeed, Slaanesh would take a particular interest in the souls of the Eldari, savouring their suffering and fear like a fine wine. Despite the majority of the pantheon being seemingly annihilated, 3 of the original gods of the Eldari would manage to avoid certain destruction at the hands of She Who Thirsts. The surviving gods of the Eldari would include Chigorak, the laughing god and patron deity of the Harlequin sect, who would survive the carnage by fleeing into the depths of the webway. Kalamentia Kane, the god of war whose form would be shattered and scattered throughout the material universe, with each shard of his being taking root within the wraithbone core of a craft world and creating the mighty beings known as avatars. The final surviving god of the fall would be Isha, the mother of the Eldari race, who would be rescued from the clutches of Slaanesh by the plague god Nurgle, who now keeps the goddess as a prized possession within his garden. But as the souls of the deceased Eldari begin to congregate within the bowels of each craft world's infinity circuit, a new god of the Eldari pantheon is beginning to slowly take form. This god is considered to be the final hope of a race teetering upon the brink of extinction. Ynnead, the god of the dead. While many of the Eldari believe that the very idea of Ynnead to be little more than comforting myths and fairy tales told to children, little do they realise the truth of Ynnead's gestation. Prior to the onset of Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade, the Farseer Eldrad Ulthran would begin undertaking a ritual to awaken Ynnead, so that the god of the dead would do battle with and ultimately destroy Slaanesh, freeing the Eldari from the damnation of their own making. Eldrad, with the aid of the mysterious Harlequins, would use the crystallized remains of ancient and powerful Farseers upon the crystal moon of Coheria, which acted as a psychic resonator, to begin a summoning ceremony to channel the power of Ynnead throughout the infinity circuits of every craft world in order to awaken this new god. Despite Eldrad's efforts, the ritual would be interrupted by a force of Astartes from the Deathwatch chapter led by Captain Artemis. Eldrad would be forced to abandon the ritual, and the moon of Coheria would be destroyed following the culmination of the battle. However, Eldrad's actions were not in vain, as Ynnead would begin stirring within the warp at the very moment when a gladiatrix known as Evrain would be slain within the gladiatorial pits of Camorra. As his awakening occurred at the exact moment of Evrain's death, the nascent god would use his powers to resurrect her, transforming Evrain into his emissary and naming her his daughter. Evrain would eventually go on to lead a new faction of the Eldari, known as the Inari, a group that is comprised of members from across all facets of Eldari society, dedicated to fully awakening the god of the dead. But given the fact that the ritual undertaken by Eldrad was interrupted by Imperial forces, and as such had no way of reaching its intended conclusion, could this have led to Ynnead becoming potentially corrupted in some way? Initially, it would appear to be wholly feasible to assume that Ynnead had become tainted by the powers of chaos, especially when you take a closer look at the being known as the Incarnate, the avatar of Ynnead. the Incarnate's appearance does, at first glance, bear similarities and visual cues that are akin to more traditionally Slaaneshi aesthetics, which can even be demonstrated by the androgynous form that the Incarnate itself takes. The chest of the Incarnate is asymmetrical in appearance, with one half sporting a single, pronounced feminine breast, while the other half of the entity's chest appears to adopt a more traditionally masculine appearance. These more androgynous traits are similar to those depicted within many documented depictions of Slaanesh's demonic minions, such as demonettes, with many specimens of which being noted for displaying physical characteristics that are both male and female. The Incarnate also bears upon one side of its skull a trio of horn-like structures, which appear less like the stylized head crests displayed with the avatars of Cain, looking decidedly more organic in appearance instead of taking on a form more akin to headgear or armor. The fact that the Incarnate bears 3 horn-like growths upon one side of its head is also in itself highly evocative of many Keeper of Secrets greater demons, with a number of them boasting 3 horns upon each side of their skull. While it could be argued that these more Slaaneshi traits that are displayed by the Incarnate could be due to the fact that it was predominantly the Aeldari who birthed Slaanesh to begin with, who as a result would have adopted many of their racial and spiritual characteristics, it is worth noting that the Incarnate's appearance is only superficially similar to that of the Avatar of Cain. However, this in itself does not necessarily discredit any link between the two, as their roles within the Aeldari pantheon as the gods of death and war respectively could potentially hold a drastic effect over the forms that their physical avatars may take. But another question that needs to be asked is that even with taking the failure of Eldrad's ritual to awaken Ynnead into account, would it even be possible for Slaanesh to corrupt a god, or even a fragment of a god, with her profane and perverse influence? Surprisingly, yes. There is an event documented within the 4th edition Demon's Codex detailing such an event occurring, known as the Fall of Carice. When Slaanesh sought to claim the Aeldari souls upon the craft world of Carice, a vast demonic horde led by the Keeper of Secrets known as Heartslayer would attempt to launch an invasion of the craft world, but would be prevented from doing so by the various protective wards utilised upon Carice. To circumvent this, Heartslayer would adopt the guise of a young Aeldari male and seduce the daughter of one of the craft world's autarchs to allow him to enter the halls of Carice. Once aboard the craft world, Heartslayer would acquire the key necessary to disable the wards keeping the demonic hordes at bay. As demons and Aeldari battled across the surface of Carice, the craft world's avatar would begin to awaken due to the carnage being wrought. Heartslayer would encounter the awakening avatar before being caught in the entity's inescapable grip. The demon would shear off the avatar's hand with its blade before investing itself into the very form of the avatar, possessing it and corrupting it from within, transforming it into a great unholy figure bathed in sacred fire. Because an avatar of Cain, which to reiterate is one of the very fragments of Kayla Mencha Cain himself, can indeed be corrupted by the taint of Slaanesh, then it's certainly feasible to assume that a young and newly awakening god, such as Ynnead, could also become tainted by She Who Thirsts. As Slaanesh is at her core a god that embodies the very notion of pleasure, then perhaps the Chaos God found an opportunity to exploit in the failed ritual to awaken her greatest adversary. Perhaps by corrupting Ynnead, or even by simply claiming to be this new god of the dead, Slaanesh had inadvertently discovered a way for the Aeldari to willingly give their souls to She Who Thirsts. In this way, the false hope experienced by the Aeldari at the idea of awakening or empowering their saviour would instead continue to feed the endless hunger of Slaanesh. Indeed, such actions would be some of the bitterest but also most pleasurable ironies for the god of hedonism and excess to savour. What do you think? Leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.